Unfortunately, the cost of your home insurance is going up. One projection had it at 9% increases. And then also, it's a good time, though, now to take a look at your coverage just to see if there are some adjustments you need to make. And Marshall Clay with the Welsh Group joined us to help share some of the things you should evaluate. Good to see you this morning.
Yeah, good to see you, Mike.
I think most people, you know, they really don't want to fool with the details necessarily, but it's important to look at several factors. Right?
You're right. I think that homeowners insurance oftentimes is a check the block type subject. People either say they have it or they don't have it, and they don't really get into the details until they need it. And then oftentimes they find that the coverage that they do have is not enough to cover some sort of damage.
Especially in cases, you know, where we've had storm damage and they realize the cost to rebuild was not part of the policy.
Yeah, and I think that's my big concern is that we've had this very volatile construction market, and I think any of our viewers that have been in that market, whether it be a home remodel or anything, have experienced those escalating costs. And I think a lot of times if there's damage, there's such volatility in the market that a lot of these coverages don't fully cover the cost of that.
So definitely pay attention to talk to your agent about your replacement cost to build coverage. What about actual cash value coverage? What do you mean?
Yeah, so that's probably the least expensive, and that's the one where you're most vulnerable because the insurance company actually takes depreciation into account. So for example, if you replace your roof, for example, 10 years ago, and something happens to the roof, the insurance company is going to depreciate the value of that cost. So if they estimate that, you know, there's a 20-year life expectancy for that roof, you're 10 years into that life expectancy, it costs $20,000 to replace your roof, they're only going to give you $10,000 for that replacement cost. So you have to bear the burden of the other $10,000. So that's an important aspect about actual value coverage. And then you mentioned the replacement cost coverage, and they actually estimate the full cost of replacing the roof, but even that sometimes does not fully cover the cost depending on the volatility in the construction market. So it's very important to read and review those policies on an ongoing basis to make sure that estimate, the one that the insurance company gives you, is appropriate. And then obviously the most expensive, but the one that gives most people the most peace of mind, is the guaranteed replacement cost coverage. So that guarantees that if you have that coverage, if something happens, that the insurance company is going to come in and fully replace the
people in different situations. What should they think about for coverage that is appropriate?
Well, I think really it depends on the area of the country that you're living in. I think you and I were talking off air about, you know, the people that live down closer to the coast. They're intimately familiar with wind damage and flood damage. So I think assessing kind of where you live, you know, if you're in a tornado corridor, I think that's very important to look at wind damage. But I think it's really case by case specific. It's really looking at your budget and then analyzing how much risk do you want to take. I mean, these are low probability events that, you know, oftentimes that you're going to have a tornado maybe, you know, tear down your.
But it would be common to have hail damage.
It would be common to have hail damage. I had hail at my house last week, so there's a lot of things that are fairly common, and so it's really more about peace of mind. But I would say, look, steer clear, or at least be very cautious about the actual value coverage. I would say for most people, minimum of replacement costs. If you got some money, guaranteed replacement costs.
Marshall Clay with the Welsh Group. Good reminder, everybody, do your homework, check with your agent. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll be back.
I see first.